Welcome to the Creative Condition podcast, an ongoing series of conversations and considerations to help people understand and embrace their own unique creativity for fulfilling lives and brilliant careers. My name is Ben Talon. I'm an illustrator and author, and I bring 16 years of creative industry experience working with the New York Times, The Guardian, the Premier League, and more. And I invite designers, artists, psychologists, scientists, coaches, athletes, sensitivity experts, and all kinds of thought leaders to help us broaden our knowledge of creativity. Creativity is a fundamental pillar of human happiness, a vital ingredient in the solutions to our problems, but so often misunderstood. The show is supported by founding sponsor and B Corp, Illustration X. Take a look at their stunning range of illustrators and animators at illustrationx.com. If you like the music for the show, it's by Dirty Freud, who you can listen to now on Spotify and all good music streaming services.
It was a real eye-opener. The first time I did Basel was the first I did the Debbie Harry mural with Tristan. He was doing Africa Bambaataa up the road and I was doing Debbie Harry. He got me that job. But there was a whole bunch of people there, like Circle, can't remember the other, Hush, all those guys. They were travelling the world, being paid and doing murals, and it was like, this is for me, you know. I think that's a pinnacle, not a pinnacle because that suggests a point and there's a downhill, but if you can achieve that in life where you're travelling around and managing to have a comfortable lifestyle and have a bit of money, I mean, you've done it, I think.
I think so.
And maintain it as well.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, I mean, not to jump too far ahead of ourselves, but the shift you've made into doing this stuff with the RIP posters, and I find it very inspiring because you see so many people reach, you said, their pinnacle and plateau. And that's one of the worst nightmares to me, as someone who I like to, it feels like it's in my blood, creativity, but the idea of that, of settling on something, that scares me.
I'd get very bored if I settled on one style. I mean, I guess the style that went through Grand Theft Auto, the games I worked on, has come out the other end, and I'm still painting in a similar style. I think it's rawer than what I do, and there's more quirkiness to it. If you see some of my ink drawings that I do on the RIP posters, you know, and the root of that comes from DC Comics and Marvel when I was 7. So I guess I do have a style that's a core that runs all the way through, but if I didn't experiment and didn't follow what I was really excited about, and I got loads of ideas ready for doing for shows, I think I'd go out of my mind.
In my view, that's the essence of being a creative person, and being interested in exploring your own creativity. So you mentioned DC Comics days. Was that an early influence in the style that we saw in the sort of Grand Theft Auto work? Was that shaped in when you worked at Rockstar, or was that a style you were already practicing?
That style, when I did the GTA 3 cover, I adapted whatever I was doing before to that cover, which is a heavy black line and all the monotone and the black outline. But that, you know, I was copying Marvel comic frames back when I was 7 or 8 and trying to get all the anatomy right, and that stuff was fantastic, and it just stuck with me all the way through.
It's ever intriguing to me, people's early stuff, because I think we all, to a degree, start doing that. We copy the stuff that we love very innocently and very from a true love of it. I did the same thing with the comics, but then I was kind of taken away by football graphics and wrestling, in my case, professional wrestling stuff. But it's when you leave that and you start to add this now forming personality that you've got, whether it's in your teens and your formative years. I love that. I think that's a beautiful connection when it starts to go its own way.
When you collect things together, like, you know, when I start to see the punk graphics would probably, I would say psychedelic art and hand-painted logos went along with the DC Comics. And then the next step was punk, Jamie Reed, seeing all his fantastic graphic work. So that bundled in with DC and Marvel, And then the next big influence was Raw Comics, Art Spiegelman's beautiful comic that he used to make in the 80s. As in, like, there was Gary Panther, the rawness of his work and the colour he used to use. Who else was there? Mark Mayer. Who else? Jude Friedman, I think his name is. But anyway, do you know Raw Comics?
No.
It's really beautiful. You should check it out. He would do things like rip the corner off the comic and then stick the rip inside the comic. I don't know why, but that would be, it was they go for a lot of money now. They're beautiful, beautiful comics. Those are the main influences back then, that kind of formed my whole style, I think.
Yeah.
And then back to psychedelic art as well. That's always been a constant.
Where did you grow up and when?
Grew up in Trowbridge, Wiltshire.
Yeah.
It's near Stonehenge. I guess I tried to grow up in the 1970s. I don't think I grew up until I was 45, really. But anyway, I attempted to grow up then, and then the 80s I was pretty much art college. Went to Japan, 4 years at Hysteric Glamour fashion company there.
Oh, wow.
And then 90s I was on and off in Japan, working in London. And then left London in 2001 to come to New York.
What impact did Japan have? I've just come back from there for the first time and it blew me away.
Well, obviously all the manga was an influence, and that stuff's pretty crazy over there. But it was like hanging out with Noble, who was the head designer at Hysteric Glamour, where I was working. He had a big influence in that he would introduce me to so much different work. There's an artist called Erro, E-R-R-O, that I really loved. Being introduced to his work was amazing. Who else was there? I can't remember. They introduced me to a lot of music and a lot of art. So I think he was a bigger influence than the actual experience of being in Japan, really, on my work.
Did you speak the language?
I spoke at one point.
Yeah.
And I forgot it all.
Yeah.
I pretty much can't speak anything now.
I liked being completely out of my depth in some respects because I didn't understand anything. Everything was so visual. So I was taking it in, I suppose, on a different level.
Yeah.
To people who could speak the language or native people, but they just...
But they're really kind. I mean, they will help you if you're stuck. Still, a very easy place to get lost. First day I got there, I should have taken the hotel name and number, because I got in a taxi somehow and ended up in the middle of nowhere, and it was like no idea where to go back to.
That's the thing, isn't it? No anchor point.
I don't even know how I got back to where I was supposed to be. It's weird. Yeah, I've been thinking about putting my Rip poster artwork back into the street. But someone might nick it. I guess, I'd like to see if I stuck a piece on a wall, what would happen to it? Like, who would rip bits off? Would anyone draw into it, stick paste-ups or stickers onto it? But as I said, if someone nicked it, I'd be really annoyed.
Yeah, because there'd be a portion of people who would walk past it like any other, but then surely there'd be some who would see that there's a little more method to these ones. Maybe
I should be less precious about it, just do it as an experiment.
Yeah.
I'll wait there all day, and if someone takes too much of it away, then I'll be like, oi, that's not free.
Policing it, yeah. Could be good. That'd be interesting to see.
So yeah, now talking about putting it back in the street and seeing what happens to it is something that I should do, isn't it? Thinking about it.
I think so. Yeah, I think that would be a good, definitely a whole different slice of the project. Yeah.
Also, the subway has my favourite boardings covered in Rip posters. I don't know why. I think because the posters the vintage stuff has been maintained for such a long time that I've got some amazing layers from from the 70s, stuff I've pulled down from the subway that's been exposed.
Oh, wow.
It's beautiful. I mean, it's filthy, but doesn't matter. You get your hands dirty with this stuff.
Oh God, that's surely that's a big part of it.
Yeah. But I've wanted to paint onto that in the subway, but I don't want to get arrested.
No.
You know, what is the difference between painting a nice picture on the wall versus graffiti? At the moment, I'm not sure. I think there's a discussion legally, like when they bust people and they don't bust people. It's like, what's vandalism and what's art?
I've often wondered about that. Maybe they should start training coppers as art directors as well.
Yeah, put a lot of like underworked artists into the police force, the art force. I'm sure Trump would finance that.
It's not a bad idea, you know. I mean, maybe we're just deluded artists, but I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. I met a guy this weekend who just done a documentary. What's it called? I don't know, Following Banksy or something. And it's dealing with the people that take the walls down and sell them for money.
Mm.
And what's the word? Not etiquette, but it's kind of like, what's the implication of that and what should be done about it? Vandalism versus mural art. Especially with Banksy, because I mean, what does one of his walls go for? That's
a lot of money.
A lot of money, yeah.
Did you see the project recently? The one in between Israel and Palestine.
Yeah. He's amazing, isn't he?
I thought that was fantastic. Yeah. There was a time when I was almost knocked a little bit by the sheer amount of gift shops ripping off and exploiting his anonymity. But then projects like that remind you that actually very clever, talented man.
Yeah, yeah. If he left it at wall art, it would have been like, he's still conceptually incredible. But in fact, he pushed it to doing his Disneyland and the hotel.
Dismal Land.
He deserves to be one of the most famous artists in the world.
Oh, and to never step out and sort of gobble up the glamour almost, which he could do at any point and has never done. I think that's commendable. Yeah, shows that he truly cares about the right things.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's the most famous artist there is, because the fact that he gets into the New York Post, which is I believe a blue collar newspaper over here. The fact that they all print an article on, is this Banksy spraying a wall or something? You would have thought that it would be like, why are they printing something about some guy called Banksy?
Yeah.
But everybody knows who he is.
Yeah.
I can't think of it. I mean, I don't even know if people reading the Post would even know who Warhol is.
Really?
I don't know. Maybe I'm being unfair.
Interesting. There's a question. Is Banksy the biggest rock star in the world?
Biggest rock star in the world?
Probably. I mean, music, there's very few of them anymore.
He's probably up there with Elvis, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, in terms of everyone knowing who he is. So New York, how long have you been here now? You said 2001, right?
Yeah, 16 years.
And you still, I think the posters probably show that you're still loving it.
I love it. If I go into New York and see some of this stuff around, the ripped posters that I can take down as raw materials for my work, it's just like, I'm just start buzzing, It's that when I went to LA last year, I didn't really miss that much apart from my son, and I was like, oh, New York, I'm taking it for granted now, really. And then I started seeing all the ripped posters around, and I was just like, that's why I love this place. The decay and the graffiti and the art. I can look around and kind of choose little bits of wall to either rip down or photograph. It's really makes the city more interesting. I want to travel the world and just to photograph walls and rip down samples. I keep seeing on Instagram people are doing the same thing as me as regards to photographing the details of the walls. There's some fabulous stuff in Paris, especially. I see those photographs and I'm just like, I want to go on. Teleport me to France so I can go and nick that stuff.
Yeah.
Or photograph it. So yeah, I still love New York. I don't think I'm going to go anywhere else.
No.
unless my son, when he's 18, moves to LA, then I'll probably move to LA and try and persuade him to let me have the spare room.
Yeah. With your early work, early work with Rockstar, what was that? That must have been a huge buzz when those games really took off.
Well, I didn't know. Obviously, none of us really knew that it was going to be as explosive as it was. I mean, it's beyond phenomenal, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there's so many stories over the years that have been created by it. There was demonstrations outside the offices.
Wow.
Crossing a demonstration line to get into the office is pretty cool, you know. There's not many companies that would happen to.
No.
That would happen at. But to go from GTA 3 pretty much exploding as soon as it was released and selling millions, and then Vice City coming out, and then that selling even more. I mean, it was an amazing experience. Seeing that, and there's not many things in the history apart from, like the Beatles, Elvis, both caused a lot of trouble, where it'd be spoken about by governments, like, what are we going to do about this? This is ruining the youth of America or Britain. And then there was a time when the Beastie Boys were just considered satanic in England, and punk rock was considered satanic in England, and all the gigs, Sex Pistols gigs were banned, and then Twisted Sister even had, they were called up to the Senate and had to answer questions. And then Rockstar, again, the politicians using Rockstar as the satanic company that are ruining the youth of America. And politicians latching onto that to make themselves look better, you know.
When in reality, I would argue that a lack of punk and that aesthetic and bad parenting got a lot more to answer for.
You think punk does?
No, I think punk, the lack of punk, that aesthetic, that DIY, people been taught to think for themselves and to embrace DIY culture. I think a lack of that in the home can be very destructive, way more than any video game, in my opinion. I had all those video games, never once thought about, I could never attack a person, you know? I was showing the difference between what's reality and what's simulation. That was, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. But we're a very easy thing to blame when it comes to politicians. Very convenient.
Oh God, yeah.
It's only because it made so much money for the economy that I think they realised they had to lay off it. Because they're like, hang on a minute, this is keeping the economy going.
Yeah.
But I would have, Trump needs someone to blame at the moment. I guess he's blaming everyone else. He doesn't need to blame Rockstar for anything. But
nope.
But to read and see a company that you're working for in the news and in the newspapers is very interesting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I mentioned to you when we spoke last time that I really loved, and I was blessed to have this recently with when my book came out in Japan, but to see my stuff out there in Japan and people buying it in Tokyo was a huge buzz. And was that the same in terms of all the magazine covers and all the global kind of coverage of what you guys have been working on? That must have been fantastic.
Well, it's fantastic to walk out into New York, for example, and see my artwork on billboards. And the rest of the team's artwork on billboards. When my parents came over, they're walking around the city and it's covered in the Warriors artwork that I'd done.
Yeah.
So they were tickled pink by that. My dad went down into the police station at Union Square subway to tell the cops down there that his son had painted all the Warriors artwork all over the subway, and the cops like, oh, cool, I was playing that last night.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
That's tremendous.
Even my wedding day, we're driving back from when we got married, and Lollipop Girl is based on my wife, and she's on a huge billboard on Houston Broad and Bowery, and that was pretty amazing.
Well, how did that go then? Did you work? I mean, would there be a script for these characters, or did the artwork form the characters in reverse?
When I started, I was given like descriptions of the characters and asked to work up my version of them. But later on, it became when the avatars were fully worked up. We worked from those.
Okay. And which did you prefer?
All of it. Loved it all.
And so, what were the reasons for leaving? Did you want to pursue new things?
I wanted to do my own artwork. I knew that it was, time was running out, and I had to get on with showing my own stuff.
Yeah. And
I was doing it in my spare time. I wanted to, and I knew that I could do something with it. So I had to get out there and do it, and take the risk. And we all have to take risks at some point in our careers, and do something that might fail abysmally, or it might make our lives hugely more exciting.
Sometimes both. In my own experience,
failure can be exciting.
Yeah, very much so. And I think sometimes it just teaches you the greatest things. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the fear that comes with that, I can completely empathise with people who would not take the risk. But to me, even the things that have gone completely flat on their arse have been some of the best catalysts. It's if nothing more than a process of elimination to say, stop doing that now. Go and focus on that thing. And
yeah, it's a fantastic part of the creative process. I set out to do 3 years ago. Set out to do a certain form of fine art, and found I couldn't do it. It wasn't achievable at that point, and it just led me off into whatever I'm doing now. It's almost like a river finding its own route.
Yeah.
Which was it can be frustrating, but when you are forced to discover something else because you can't manage to push through on another angle, it's wonderful,
The Rip poster stuff, there must have been a great instinctive lead on that from being exposed to it subconsciously.
Taking photographs of details of the Rip posters around New York, it was only a matter of time before I thought I wanted to start doing this for myself. And when you see a big juicy piece of poster with a model's head on it kind of hanging off a billboard, it's very tempting to just rip it and then collect other bits together and think, well, if I juxtapose this with that, it takes off from there, and it's very addictive. It's so meditative, piecing together in a harmonious composition all these different elements of ripped paper,
It's great because, as you said, people doing that on Instagram, you've got these things that are just there, simple as that, they exist in the environment, and yet everyone can take that. Everyone's got a different section they find attractive. Everyone sees it from a certain angle and with different input. I find that a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's growing, the number of people that are into it.
Yeah.
That's really why I had to start drawing into them to really make it mine.
Yeah.
I was always aware of, there's a movement in the 50s and 60s called the New Realists. Rotella, who's from the 1950s, was pulling down posters around Rome, and Jacques Viglais was doing the same in Paris. And they would cut pieces out from a billboard. They would choose the section of the billboard of the ripped poster, take it back to the studio and stick it straight onto canvas. And it was pretty much their point was the anonymous stranger in the street creates the art, we choose it, and then we frame it and put it in a gallery. And halfway through doing the ripped poster thing, I rediscovered Rotella's work, and I thought to myself, people are going to think what I'm doing is too derivative of this. So I started drawing into it, making it more personal to me.
Yeah.
So I had to make mine more distinguished from what other people are doing,
Do you feel you've reached a space now where that's the case?
Yes, if more people knew about it. Yeah. But it's getting there. I just did a TED talk in Bermuda And I'm hoping if that gets enough hits, then people will see what I'm up to. I mean, that's probably the most lucrative way to get my work out there. Lucrative as in getting more followers and people aware of my work than anything else I can think of, really. I was talking to the governor of the island, same as you, like discussing, because there's gang problems on Bermuda now. I was just discussing how they should start encouraging murals and transforming the gang culture there with getting them into creativity and painting. And it's pretty no-brainer now. It's been proven endlessly all over the world that art really transforms not only people but whole environments.
Completely.
Yeah.
So many layers of creativity. This has become my driving thing. It's like I used to do a lot of little bits for various charities because I always like to use my work in that way. But now I've got a single focus on trying to. These shows are the idea of planting these seeds out there for people to access and take their own things from. And I just think it's, as someone who grew up in a small Yorkshire town with not a lot happening and seeing kids go astray from not having access to that use of creativity, it's just always seemed like a no-brainer thing to me. But putting that in a way that you can place that in front of a government, for example, and going, speaking their language so that it's understandable for someone who's never lived it. It's a difficult thing to do.
There's enough evidence now, though, to present to someone in authority. But there's a way to do it. My friend who has the Monorex Gallery in LA, where I had my show last year, he's been studying the gentrification process in West Adams, which is an impoverished area, still of Bloods and Crips, gang territory. And since he's had the gallery there and encouraging artists to paint the streets, I mean, he's pretty much like the streets are now covered in mural work. The police are really chuffed because the crime rate's going down, the amount of graffiti is going down, and the mural art is the graffiti artists respect the mural artists. So the neighbourhood's really going up in being gentrified, if you think that's a good thing or not. Yeah, I mean, obviously a situation where a neighbourhood gets gentrified to the point where people living there can't afford to live there anymore is not necessarily a good thing. But if it helps with an environment that's impoverished and doesn't push people out, it's a good thing.
It is. So have you found the upscaling thing out? Your Debbie Harry piece blew me away. I thought it was tremendous.
Thanks.
But then I also thought, how's he done that? How's he got that? How's he upscaled to that size and got it right? Because I've only worked at maybe the wall that we're in front of now, and then I'm talking 6 foot by about 9 foot is the biggest that I've done, and that was a first time thing.
Well, when I left Rockstar, I decided I had to take on challenges that I didn't think I could achieve. And the first one was Debbie Harry mural, and I'd never used spray paint. I'm scared of heights, and I was standing 60 foot up in a cherry picker painting a wall. I hate people watching me work, so I had people constantly watching me work from the street using spray paint, which I'd never used before. It was a hell of a challenge in tropical rainstorms in Miami. But I just thought I've got to do it. I'm not going to say no just because I think I can't do it and I have never done it before. I'm going to take it on, and I did it. Same with the TED Talk. I thought there's no way I'm going to get up in front of 1,000 people and talk. There was incredible self-doubt, but I knew I had to do it because otherwise I'd be a chicken.
Yeah. Well, you do. It's the only way you grow, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pushing yourself to new things.
And it creates adventure, overcoming fear. I'm still not great with spray paint, but I've done, I hope to do a lot more in the future and just keep practicing.
Yeah.
I've done my 1,000 brush strokes, spray strokes though. There's, I can't remember the name of the photographer, but he basically said, you got to throw away your first 1,000 photographs because you're not going to be any good until you've done that. So I've adapted that to spray paint. I've done my 1,000 spray paint strokes. So I feel like I've done my apprenticeship.
So you had the show, was it I Frankenstein? Your show with the posters? How was that? Go as well as you hoped?
It went really well, yeah. Another thing I didn't think I could do, and it was 2,500 square foot gallery, which is huge, and I thought, how the hell am I going to fill a gallery like that? But I did 22 paintings, and it was perfect. You know, they fit in, and they were huge. I got a big crowd in, got some good drink sponsors, got a good party, and sold most of it as well.
Fantastic.
And then most of the money, I put in most of the money up front, so which meant I made most of the money back. So I kind of evened out and broke even on that show. Brilliant. Which is pretty good for I mean, I've had solo shows before, but it was my first solo in LA. And I learned a hell of a lot from it. I'm about to start a whole new body of work for the show in London in October. I've got so many ideas. I really want to get them down. I've been working on that Coke campaign and doing the TED Talk and stuff, and I haven't had a chance to get down to it yet.
Brilliant. I'll be looking forward to that.
Yeah.
How long's it going to be on for?
Only 2 weeks, which I think is pretty standard.
Yeah. It'll be good. I'll look out for that.
Yeah. I got to a level now with my career that things are really working out well, you know. I was afraid when I left Rockstar that my whole life would just crumble under my inability to do any work properly, but it's all working out really well. Brilliant.
I'm glad to hear it. I think it's a great example of having the balls to, you know, step out of the comfort zone as well. I'm a big advocate of it, and I think it's great to see.
It's life's a lot more exciting now, I have to say.
Well, that's wonderful. Cheers for your time, Stephen.
You're welcome. Pleasure.
That's great. Yeah, as ever.